Billionaire hid his black wife from his family until her final act at his deathbed shocked them all. The elevator doors opened to the penthouse, and I stepped into a room full of people who wanted my husband dead. They didn't know I existed. They didn't know that the man dying 3 rooms away had whispered my name in his sleep for 7 years. They didn't know that his last coherent words, spoken to me alone in the sterile silence of his private medical suite, were, "Don't let them erase us." I clutched the leather folder against my chest, the one containing our marriage certificate, dated 7 years, 2 months, and 16 days ago. My hands trembled. Not from fear. From rage held on a leash so tight it burned. "Who the hell are you?" The voice came from a woman draped in Chanel and cruelty. Blonde. 50s. Eyes like chips of Arctic ice. She stood near the marble fireplace with a champagne flute in hand, as if this were a cocktail party and not a death watch. I recognized her instantly. Vivian Vale. Adrian's mother. The woman who once told her son that certain peoples didn't belong in families like ours. She was talking about me. She just didn't know it yet. "I asked you a question." Vivian's voice could have cut glass. "Security should have stopped you at the lobby. This floor is family only." I met her gaze and didn't blink. "I'm Mara Ellington," I said quietly. "And I'm exactly where I belong." The room went still. 8 people. All of them Vales or their lawyers. All of them circling Adrian's fortune like sharks who'd smelled blood in the water. His brother, Nicholas Vale, turned from the window. Tall. Sharp-suited. The kind of handsome that came with a trust fund and a sociopatha's smile. "Ellington?" He tilted his head. "As in the Ellington Foundation? The charity work in East Africa?" "Yes." His eyes traveled over me, my natural hair pulled into a low bun, my simple black dress, my bare ring finger. Adrian had begged me not to wear the ring in public. "Not yet," he'd said. "Not until I can protect you from them." Now there was no more time for protection. Nicholas smirked. "Let me guess. You're here to present some last-minute donation request? Hoping to tug at a dying man's heartstrings for a check." He glanced at his mother. "These people always know when to strike." These people. I'd heard that phrase before. Whispered in country clubs. Delivered with practiced smiles at galas where I was the only black face in the room. Adrian used to squeeze my hand under the table when he heard it, his jaw tight with suppressed fury. But Adrian wasn't here to squeeze my hand anymore. "I'm not here for money," I said. "Then what?" Vivian stepped closer, her heels clicking like a countdown. "Adrian is unconscious. He's been unconscious for 2 days. Whatever relationship you think you had with my son. I'm his wife." The words landed like a grenade. Silence. Then Vivian laughed. It was the kind of laugh that could peel paint off walls. "Excuse me." I opened the leather folder with steady hands and pulled out the certificate. Walked forward. Placed it on the glass coffee table between us. "We were married 7 years ago," I said. "Legally. Privately. By choice." Nicholas snatched up the document. His eye scanned it. Once. Twice. His face went from smug to white. "This is fake," he said flatly. "It has to be." "It's not." "Adrian would never," Vivian's voice cracked. She grabbed the certificate from Nicholas, her perfectly manicured nails nearly tearing the paper. "He would never marry without telling us." Without your permission." I finished softly. Her eye snapped to mine, and for the first time, I saw fear beneath the fury. Because she knew. Deep down, she knew her son was capable of exactly this. "You're a liar," Vivian hissed. "A con artist. You found out he was dying and fabricated this fantasy, to get your hands on his estate." "I don't want his estate." "Everyone wants his estate." Nicholas slammed his hand on the table. "Adrian Vale is worth $14 billion. You expect us to believe you married him and want nothing?" "I expect nothing from you," I said. "I came here to say goodbye to my husband. That's all." Goodbye. Vivian's laugh was bitter. You want us to believe you loved him? Where were you for the last 2 months while he was wasting away? Where were you when he collapsed at the office? When he was airlifted here? I was exactly where he asked me to be. My voice didn't waver. Waiting for him to feel safe enough to tell you the truth. Safe? Nicholas scoffed. From what? From this. I gestured at the room. At them. From people who would see him dead before they'd see him happy. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Vivian's face twisted. Get out. Get out of this house before I have you arrested for trespassing and fraud. You can't. A new voice entered the conversation. Everyone turned. A man in his 60s stood in the doorway. Steel grey hair. Expensive suit. Carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than most people's cars. I recognized him too. Howard Stratton. Adrian's personal attorney. Howard, Vivian said sharply. Remove this woman. Immediately. But Howard's eyes were on me. Sad. Knowing. I can't do that, Vivian, he said quietly. Because she's telling the truth. The room exploded. Nicholas started shouting. Vivian demanded explanations. 2 other relatives I didn't recognize began arguing over the legality. Lawyers huddled. Phones came out. But I heard none of it. Because at that moment, a nurse appeared in the doorway behind Howard. Young. Anxious. Her scrubs wrinkled from a double shift. Mrs. Vale. She looked directly at me. My heart stopped. He's asking for you. Hey, beautiful souls. Before we go any further into this story, and trust me, you won't believe what happens next, I need to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I love knowing where my incredible viewers are tuning in from. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are we waiting for? Hit that subscribe button because this story is about to take you on an emotional rollercoaster you will not want to miss. Now let's get back to Mara, because Adrian's family isn't about to let her walk into that room without a fight. I moved toward the nurse, but Nicholas blocked my path. Absolutely not. His voice was ice. We don't know who you are. You could be anyone. You could be here to finish him off. Get out of my way. Something in my tone made him hesitate. Maybe he saw the grief I'd been holding back. Maybe he saw the 7 years of love I'd hidden. Maybe he just saw a woman who had nothing left to lose. Howard stepped forward. Nicholas, the marriage is legal. I witnessed it myself. If Adrian is asking for his wife, she has every right. This is insane. Vivian shrieked. She's not his wife. She can't be. Adrian wouldn't. He wouldn't. He did. Howard's voice was gentle but firm. And he made me promise that if anything happened to him, I would make sure she was protected. That she was honored. That she was here. Protected from what? Vivian demanded. Howard looked at her for a long moment. From you, he said simply. The words hit like a slap. Vivian staggered back, her champagne flute slipping from her fingers and shattering on the marble floor. I didn't wait for her response. I walked past Nicholas, past the shattered glass, past the lawyers and relatives and all the people who thought they owned Adrian's life. The nurse led me down a quiet hallway. Cream-colored walls. Soft lighting. The kind of place where people came to die expensively. He's been in and out, she whispered. But when he woke up 20 minutes ago, the first thing he said was your name. Mara. Over and over. My throat tightened. She stopped at a door. Pushed it open. Take all the time you need, she said softly. I stepped inside. The room was dim. Monitors beeped. And foot drip hung beside the bed. And there, beneath white sheets, was the man I loved. Adrian Vale. He looked so small. So fragile. The brilliant, powerful man who'd once held me on a rooftop in Nairobi and promised me forever now looked like he was made of paper. His eyes opened. Barely. Mara, he whispered. I crossed the room and took his hand. It was cold. Too cold. I'm here, I said, tears streaming down my face. I'm right here, baby. I'm not going anywhere. They know. They know. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Good. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I waited so long. Sure, don't. Don't apologize. Not now. I was afraid, he rasped. Afraid they'd hurt you. Destroy you. The way they destroy everything beautiful. They can't touch me, Adrian. They can't touch us. His grip tightened, weak, but desperate. The letter, he said. In the safe. You have to give it to them. After. His eyes met mine. And I saw the truth in them. He was saying goodbye. No. I shook my head. No, Adrian, don't. I love you, he whispered. I loved you the moment you told me I wasn't broken. Do you remember? Of course I remembered. 7 years ago. A medical clinic in Kenya. I was there running a vaccination program. He was there running from a suicide attempt his family had covered up as exhaustion. We were both strangers in a foreign place. Both lost. And somehow, we found each other. I remember everything, I said through sobs. Then remember this. His voice was fading. You are the only thing I ever did right. Adrian. The letter. Promise me. I promise. He exhaled. Long, slow. The monitor screamed. And the man I loved, my husband, my heart, my secret, slipped away. They say you don't really know someone until you've seen them grieve. I learned that truth in the 72 hours after Adrian died. The Vale family didn't grieve. They strategized. While I sat in that hospital room holding Adrian's cooling hand, while I whispered prayers and apologies and love confessions to a body that could no longer hear me, they were 3 floors down in a conference room dividing his empire like looters in a burning building. I didn't leave his side for 6 hours. The nurses were kind. They brought me water I didn't drink and tissues I used until they ran out. They dimmed the lights. They gave me privacy. They treated me like what I was, a widow. The Vales treated me like a thief. When I finally emerged, eyes swollen, legs unsteady, Vivian was waiting in the hallway with 2 security guards and a restraining order. You're not welcome at the funeral, she said. No preamble. No pretense of civility. I stared at her. You can't be serious. Deadly serious. She thrust papers at me. This prohibits you from coming within 500 feet of any Vale family event, property, or gathering. That includes the funeral. The wake. The estate. He was my husband. So you claim. Her voice was venom. But until that's proven in court, and it will be challenged, you're nothing but a stranger with a piece of paper. Howard appeared beside me, breathless. Vivian, this is cruel even for you. Stay out of this, Howard. You've already compromised yourself enough by participating in whatever con my son was running. It wasn't a con, I said quietly. It was love. Love. She laughed bitterly. You want to talk about love? I gave birth to that boy. I raised him. I built him into the man he became. And you think 7 years of playing house in some hidden apartment gives you the right to? I gave him peace. My voice cut through her rant like a blade. I gave him a place where he didn't have to perform. Where he didn't have to be the perfect heir or the obedient son or the profitable investment. I gave him a home where he could breathe. Where he could be. I stepped closer. What did you give him, Vivian? Besides expectations he could never meet and conditional love he spent his whole life trying to earn. Her hand flew. The slap echoed through the hallway. My cheek burned. But I didn't move. Didn't flinch. You don't get to rewrite history, Vivian hissed. You don't get to make yourself the hero of his story just because you showed up at the end. I didn't show up at the end, I said softly. I was there for 7 years. Every birthday he spent away from you. Every holiday he claimed he was traveling. Every charity gala he attended alone. I touched my burning cheek. He was with me. Something flickered in her eyes. Doubt. Or maybe recognition. But before she could respond, Nicholas appeared. "Mother," he said. "The lawyers need you downstairs. They found something in Adrian's will." Vivian's gaze didn't leave mine. "What kind of something?" "The kind we need to discuss. Privately." She smoothed her jacket. Composed herself. Became the Ice Queen again. "Escort Mrs. Ellington," she said the name like a curse, "off the property. Make sure she doesn't remove anything. And if she contacts any media, we'll bury her in lawsuits." The security guards moved toward me. Howard stepped between us. "That won't be necessary. Mara will leave voluntarily. Won't you?" I looked at him. At the kindness in his old eyes. At the apology written across his face. "Yes," I said. "But first, I need to get something from Adrian's safe." He asked me to. "Absolutely not," Vivian started. "It's personal," I interrupted. "It has nothing to do with money or assets. It's a letter. He told me to give it to you after he died." That stopped her. "A letter? To me? To all of you?" Silence. Nicholas and Vivian exchanged glances. Some wordless sibling communication I couldn't decode. "Fine," Vivian said finally. "But you retrieve it with witnesses present. Howard and security will accompany you. You touch nothing else." 20 minutes later, I stood in Adrian's private study. I hadn't been here in months. He'd kept this space separate, his public life headquarters. But even here, I saw traces of us. A photo of Mount Kilimanjaro on the wall. We'd climbed it together on our first anniversary. A first edition of Beloved on the shelf. He'd read it to me on rainy nights. The safe was behind a painting. Abstract art he'd never liked but kept because his mother bought it. I entered the code. His fingers had been shaking when he gave it to me in the hospital. Our wedding date. Backwards. The safe opened. Inside, documents. Deeds. Stock certificates worth unfathomable amounts. And a single sealed envelope. My name on the front in Adrian's careful handwriting. My hands trembled as I pulled it out. "That's it." Nicholas peered over my shoulder. "Just a letter." "Just a letter," I confirmed. I started to open it, but Howard touched my arm gently. "Maybe read it in private," he suggested. "When you're ready." I nodded. Slipped it into my purse. As we left the study, I caught Vivian watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "He really loved you," she said suddenly. Not a question. An accusation. I met her eyes. "Yes. He did." "Then why hide it? Why hide you?" Her voice cracked. "If you were so important, why wasn't I allowed to meet you? Why wasn't I invited to the wedding? Why did my son feel the need to keep his entire life a secret from me?" For the first time, I heard something other than anger in her voice. I heard pain. "You should ask yourself that question, Mrs. Vale," I said quietly. "Because the answer has nothing to do with me." I walked out before she could respond. That night, alone in the home Adrian and I had shared, a brownstone in Brooklyn he'd bought under an LLC, far from the Manhattan penthouses and Hamptons estates of the Vale Empire, I finally opened the letter. "My Mara. If you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm so sorry. Sorry I didn't have more time. Sorry I didn't tell them sooner. Sorry I was too much of a coward to fight them while I was alive. But I'm fighting them now. In my will, the one Howard has, I've left you everything. The company. The properties. The foundation. All of it. Not because you want it. I know you don't. But because they need to see what you'll do with it. They need to see who you are. There's going to be a battle. They're going to challenge the will. Call you names. Drag you through hell. But Howard will help you. And you're stronger than all of them combined. Show them, my love. Show them what it looks like when someone actually gives a damn about the world instead of just hoarding wealth. Show them why I loved you. Show them who I really was. Forever yours. Adrian. I read it 3 times. Then I called Howard. He left me everything, I said when he answered. A long pause. I know, Howard said. I tried to convince him to prepare you. To warn you. But he insisted. When do they find out? The will reading is tomorrow. 2 p.m. At the estate. They're going to destroy me. They're going to try. I looked around the home Adrian and I built. Photos of us in places his family never knew he'd been. Books we'd read together. A kitchen where he'd learned to cook, badly, because he wanted to do normal things with me. A life they'd never seen. A love they'd never understood. Howard, I said. I need you to trust me. I do. Even if what I'm about to do seems insane. A pause. Then, especially then. I smiled despite my tears. Good. Because I'm about to honor my husband's last wish. Which is? I looked at the letter again. At his handwriting. At the words show them who I really was. I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve, I said. And hung up. The Vale estate looked like something out of a Gothic novel. 30 rooms. Marble everything. Gardens maintained by a staff of 12. Old money didn't just live here, it haunted here. I arrived at 1:55 p.m. in the same simple black dress I'd worn to the hospital. No jewelry. No armor. Just me and Adrian's letter folded in my purse. The butler, an older man named Jeffrey who'd worked for the Vales for 40 years, opened the door. His eyes widened when he saw me. Mrs. Ellington, he said quietly. I'm very sorry for your loss. The kindness nearly broke me. Thank you, Jeffrey. He was a good man, he whispered. Better than they deserved. Before I could respond, Vivian's voice echoed from inside. Is that her? Jeffrey's expression shuttered. He stepped aside. I walked into a living room that could have fit my entire childhood home 3 times over. 15 people filled it. Family members I'd never met. Lawyers in sharp suits. Nicholas standing by the window like he owned the place. He probably thought he did. Howard stood near the fireplace, briefcase in hand. When our eyes met, he gave me the smallest nod. You can do this. You have some nerve showing your face here, Nicholas said. I was invited, I replied calmly. By the terms of Adrian's will. A will that's about to be contested, Vivian snapped. She sat in a high-backed chair like it was a throne. Whatever you think you're going to get from this family. The reading starts now. Howard's voice cut through the tension. Everyone, please sit. I took a seat on the far end of the room. Alone. Exactly how they wanted me. Howard opened his briefcase. Pulled out a thick document. This is the last will and testament of Adrian Nathaniel Vale, executed 6 months ago and witnessed by myself and 2 other attorneys. 6 months ago. 2 months before his diagnosis. He'd known. Somehow, he'd known. Howard continued. To my mother, Vivian Vale, I leave the house in Martha's Vineyard and a trust fund of $5 million. Vivian's face went white. $5 million? That's... To my brother, Nicholas Vale, I leave the apartment in Manhattan and stock options valued at $3 million. Nicholas shot to his feet. That's impossible. The company alone is worth $14 billion. Let him finish, one of the lawyers said. Howard's eyes found mine. To my wife, Mara Ellington Vale. The room erupted. Wife, someone shouted. This is fraud. Nicholas roared. But Howard's voice rose above them all. I leave controlling interest in Vale Technologies, all remaining properties, the charitable foundation, and the remainder of my estate, valued at approximately $12 billion. Silence. Then chaos. Vivian collapsed back in her chair. Nicholas started screaming about lawyers and contests and legal battles. Relatives I didn't know began shouting questions. But I just sat there, staring at Howard. $12 billion. Adrian had given me $12 billion. There's more, Howard said. Everyone froze. He pulled out another envelope. Adrian left specific instructions to be read aloud in the event anyone contested the will. Don't you dare, Vivian started. But Howard was already opening it. He cleared his throat and began to read. To my family, if you're hearing this, it means you're already planning to fight. To tear down the woman I loved because you can't stand that I chose her over your approval. So let me be clear. Mara Ellington is my wife. Legally. Fully. She has been for 7 years. I hid her from you not because I was ashamed of her, but because I was ashamed of you. Ashamed of the racism you pretend doesn't exist while you clutch your pearls at country clubs that don't allow certain people. Ashamed of the cruelty you dress up as standards and tradition. Ashamed that I was too weak to stand up to you while I was alive. But I'm standing up now. Mara is the only person who ever saw me as more than a bank account or a legacy. She loved me when I had nothing to offer but broken pieces. And she stayed. So I'm giving her everything. Not as payment. But as a chance. A chance to show you what generosity actually looks like. A chance to prove that wealth can heal instead of harm. And if you fight her, if you drag her through courts and tabloids and try to destroy her the way you destroy everything that threatens your small, fearful world, just know that everyone will see exactly who you are. And exactly who I chose instead. Adrian. Howard finished reading. The silence was deafening. I looked at Vivian. Tears streamed down her face, but I couldn't tell if they were from grief or rage. Nicholas looked like he'd been slapped. This is emotional manipulation, he finally said. He wasn't in his right mind. He was completely lucid, Howard interrupted. I have medical records and psychiatric evaluations proving his mental competency. This will is ironclad. Then we'll prove the marriage is fake, Nicholas shot back. No one keeps a marriage secret for 7 years unless they're hiding something. We hid because of you, I said quietly. All eyes turned to me. I stood. Adrian wanted to tell you, I said. Every birthday, every holiday, every family dinner he skipped. He wanted to bring me. To introduce me. To stop living a double life. My voice shook but didn't break. But every time he tried, one of you would say something. Some casual comment about those people or maintaining standards or how important it was to preserve the family legacy. I looked directly at Vivian. He was terrified that if he told you about me, you'd cut him off. Not financially, he didn't need your money. Emotionally. He was terrified his own mother would disown him for loving me. Vivian flinched like I'd struck her. That's not, I never, she couldn't finish. You did, I said softly. Maybe not with words. But with every look. Every silence. Every time you made it clear what kind of woman was appropriate for a veil. I walked toward the center of the room. I didn't come here for money. I came because my husband asked me to show you something. I reached into my purse. Pulled out a folder. What's that? Nicholas asked suspiciously. Documents, I said. Transferring controlling interest in Veil Technologies to a new non-profit organization. Effective immediately. Howard's eyes widened. Mara. I'm keeping the house in Brooklyn, I continued. And enough to live on. $5 million. The same amount Adrian left his mother. I placed the folder on the coffee table. The rest, all $11.995 billion, goes into the Ellington Veil Foundation. For education, healthcare, and economic development in underserved communities. Starting in East Africa and expanding to underprivileged neighborhoods across America. Gasps echoed through the room. You can't, Nicholas started. I can. And I am. I looked at each of them. Adrian didn't give me his fortune so I could hoard it. He gave it to me so I could give it away. To people who actually need it. To communities you've ignored while you sat in houses like this counting money you'll never spend. Vivian stood, shaking. You're doing this to punish us. No, I said. I'm doing this to honor him. I moved toward the door. Wait. Howard's voice stopped me. There's one more thing in the will. I turned. He held up another envelope. Smaller. With my name on it. He left you a video message, Howard said. To be played privately. When you were ready. My breath caught. One more message. One more chance to hear his voice. I took the envelope with trembling hands. Thank you. As I walked toward the door, Nicholas called out, this isn't over. We'll fight this. We'll? Let her go, Vivian said quietly. I stopped. Turned. She was looking at me with something I hadn't seen before. Not acceptance. Not approval. But maybe understanding. He really did love you, she whispered. I know, I said. And I really did love him. I walked out of the Vale estate and didn't look back. I didn't watch the video for 3 days. It sat on my kitchen counter like a bomb I wasn't ready to defuse. Every time I walked past it, my chest tightened. Every time I thought about pressing play, I couldn't breathe. Because once I watched it, that would be it. No more messages. No more words. No more Adrian. On the 4th day, Howard called. The family's filing an emergency injunction, he said. They're claiming you coerced Adrian while he was ill. They want to freeze all assets until a full investigation. I wasn't surprised. How long do we have? The hearing is in 2 weeks. But Mara. He paused. There's something else. The media found out. My blood went cold. Found out what? Everything. The secret marriage. The will. Your plan to donate the fortune. His voice was grim. It's everywhere. CNN. Forbes. The Times. Someone leaked it. Nicholas, I said immediately. Probably. He's smart enough to know that public pressure might force you to compromise. I looked at the video envelope. At Adrian's handwriting. I'm not compromising, I said. They're going to come after you. Your past. Your credibility. They'll dig up everything. Let them dig. I was surprised by how calm I sounded. I have nothing to hide. Everyone has something to hide, Mara. He was wrong. Adrian and I had hidden our love. But everything else? My work. My foundation. My life before him? That was all documented. All real. All mine. I'll be ready, I said. Thank you, Howard. After we hung up, I finally picked up the envelope. Slid the USB drive into my laptop. Pressed play. Adrian's face filled the screen. He looked healthier here. This was months ago. Before the illness ravaged him. His eyes were bright. That smile I fell in love with played at his lips. Hi, baby. I started crying immediately. If you're watching this, I'm gone. And you're probably sitting in our kitchen trying not to fall apart. He knew me so well. First, I need you to know something. This wasn't your fault. The cancer, the timing, all of it, none of that was because of anything you did or didn't do. It was just bad luck. And I don't believe in much, but I believe we were good luck. The best luck I ever had. He leaned closer to the camera. Second, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking about giving the money away. All of it. Because that's who you are, someone who can't hold on to anything without wondering who needs it more. I laughed through tears. He really knew me. And I'm telling you, do it. Give it all away. Burn it. Build something beautiful with it. I don't care. Because the money was never the point. His expression grew serious. The point was you. The point was showing my family that there's another way to live. That wealth doesn't have to be a wall between you and the rest of humanity. That love doesn't come with conditions. He paused. But Mara, they're going to fight you. And when they do, I need you to remember something. He held up a photograph. It was us. 7 years ago. In Kenya. Muddy from a day at the medical clinic. Exhausted. Laughing. This is who we were when nothing else mattered. No money. No legacy. No expectations. Just two broken people who decided to be broken together. He set down the photo. Don't let them take that from you. Don't let them rewrite our story into something ugly. We were beautiful, Mara. Imperfect and hidden and sometimes cowardly, but beautiful. His voice cracked. I'm sorry I didn't tell them sooner. I'm sorry I didn't fight harder. I'm sorry I'm not there to stand beside you when they come. Tears rolled down his cheeks. But you don't need me to fight your battles. You never did. You're the strongest person I know. He wiped his eyes. So here's what I need you to do, win. Not for me. Not for them. For every person who's ever been told they don't belong. For every love that had to hide. For every dream someone said was too big. He smiled. Show them what happens when someone who actually gives a damn gets power. The screen went black. Then his voice came back, softer. I love you, Mara Ellington Vale. I loved you in Kenya. I loved you in Brooklyn. I loved you in every secret moment we stole. And I'll love you wherever I am now. Don't be afraid. Be extraordinary. The video ended. I sat in the silence of our kitchen and cried until I had nothing left. Then I dried my eyes. Opened my laptop. And started drafting a press release. The interview aired on 60 Minutes 3 days later. I sat across from a veteran journalist named Patricia Morrison in our Brooklyn living room, the one place that felt like Adrian and me, not the Vale Empire. Mrs. Vale, she began. You've been married to one of America's richest men for 7 years, yet nobody knew. Why? I looked directly into the camera. Because his family wouldn't have accepted me. And Adrian knew that if they rejected me, it would destroy him. Why wouldn't they accept you? Because I'm black, I said simply. And because I didn't come from money. And because in their world, those two things make me invisible. Or worse, threatening. Patricia leaned forward. The Vale family released a statement calling your marriage suspicious and suggesting you manipulated Adrian while he was vulnerable. How do you respond? I respond with the truth. I pulled out a photo album. This is 7 years of our life together. Birthdays. Holidays. Quiet Tuesdays. Every moment they say didn't exist. I opened it. Photos of us cooking. Traveling. Reading. Dancing in our living room. Living. Adrian didn't hide me because he was ashamed, I said. He hid me because he was protecting me from people who would rather see me destroyed than accept that he loved me. And the fortune? You're really giving away $12 billion. Almost all of it. Yes. Why? I thought about Adrian's video. About his smile. About the man who'd rather die than keep lying to his family. Because money without purpose is just paper, I said. And my purpose is continuing the work Adrian and I started 7 years ago, helping people who've been ignored by families like the Vales. Patricia paused. There are rumors that Adrian's brother, Nicholas, is planning to challenge your citizenship status. That is looking for any legal avenue to deport you. My stomach dropped. I hadn't heard that. But I kept my face neutral. Then he'll fail, I said calmly. Because I'm an American citizen. Born in Atlanta. Raised in Chicago. I've broken no laws except the unwritten one that says people like me don't belong in spaces like theirs. And if they continue to fight. I looked directly into the camera. Directly at Vivian and Nicholas and every Vale watching. Then I'll keep fighting back, I said. Not with lawyers and money. But with the truth. And the truth is this: Adrian Vale spent his whole life being who they wanted him to be. Except for 7 years. 7 years when he was finally, completely himself. With me. My voice didn't waver. They can take that to court if they want. But they can't erase it. They can't rewrite it. And they can't win. The interview ended. Within an hour, it had 10 million views. Within 2 hours, #I stand with Mara was trending. Within 3 hours, someone threw a brick through my window. The brick came through my bedroom window at 2:47 a.m. I woke to shattering glass and a sound like a gunshot. For a moment, I couldn't move, frozen in bed, heart hammering, Adrian's side of the mattress still empty and cold. Then survival instinct kicked in. I grabbed my phone and rolled off the bed, staying low. Dialed 911 with shaking fingers. Someone just threw something through my window, I whispered to the dispatcher. I'm alone. I don't know if they're still outside. Stay on the line, Officers are on their way. I crawled to the doorway, away from the broken glass glittering in the moonlight. That's when I saw it. The brick sat in the middle of my bedroom floor, with a note rubber-banded around it. My hands trembled as I reached for it. Unfolded the paper. Go back to where you came from, gold digger. 6 words. Scrawled in angry red marker. I stared at them until the letters blurred. The police arrived 12 minutes later. 2 officers. One older, jaded. One younger, uncomfortable. Any idea who might have done this? The older one asked, photographing the brick. His family, I said flatly. Or someone they hired. The younger officer frowned. That's a serious accusation, I just gave a national interview about how a billionaire family doesn't want me to inherit my husband's fortune. 24 hours later, someone attacks my home with a racist message. I looked at him. You think that's coincidence? The older officer sighed. We'll file a report. But unless you have proof connecting anyone specific. Of course I don't have proof. That's the point. They left an hour later with promises to patrol the area. I knew what that meant. Nothing. I was on my own. I called Howard at 5 a.m. They're escalating, I said. I know. I saw. His voice was heavy. Mara, maybe you should consider private security. At least until the hearing. I'm not hiding. I'm not asking you to hide. I'm asking you to stay alive. The words hit harder than the brick. Adrian wouldn't want, I started. Adrian isn't here. Howard's voice cracked. For the first time since I'd met him, the polished attorney facade fell away. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but he's not here. And I promised him I'd protect you, and I can't do that if you won't let me. Silence stretched between us. Okay, I whispered. Okay. By noon, I had 2 bodyguards. Former Secret Service. Professional. Invisible until you needed them. I hated it. But I needed it. Because 2 days later, the death threats started arriving by email. The hearing was scheduled for Monday. On Friday, Howard called with news that made my blood run cold. They found something, he said. Found what? A woman. In Zurich. She's claiming Adrian promised to marry her 3 years ago. Before you. My world tilted. That's impossible. She has emails. Photos. She's saying Adrian broke off the engagement when he met you and that your marriage was an act of revenge or some kind of con to hurt his family. Adrian never mentioned. I know. But Mara, the emails are convincing. They're from his actual account. Time-stamped. Authenticated. I sat down hard on the couch. 3 years ago. Adrian and I had gone through a rough patch 3 years ago. He'd traveled more than usual. Been distant. We'd almost separated. But he came back. He chose me. He chose us. Who is she? I asked. Her name is Elena Bartok. Socialite. European old money. Exactly the kind of woman the Vales would approve of. Of course. And she's testifying at the hearing. Via video call from Switzerland. Monday morning. I closed my eyes. This is Nicholas. He found her. Paid her. Something. Maybe. But we need to be prepared for the possibility that Adrian lied to me. My voice was ice. That our entire marriage was built on secrets. I'm not saying that. Then what are you saying, Howard? A long pause. I'm saying we need to find out the truth before Monday, he said quietly. Because if there's something in Adrian's past that contradicts your story, the Vales will use it to destroy you. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of our home. Our photos on the walls. Our books on the shelves. Our life. Had any of it been real? I pulled out my laptop. Searched for Elena Bartok. She was beautiful. Blonde. Elegant. Everything I wasn't. Everything Vivian would have wanted for her son. I scrolled through her social media. Charity galas. European estates. Photos with people whose last names ended countries. And then I saw it. A photo from 4 years ago. Elena at a fundraiser in Geneva. Smiling beside a man in a tuxedo. Nicholas Vale. My breath stopped. I zoomed in. Read the caption. Wonderful evening supporting children's literacy with dear friends. Nicholas had known her. Before Adrian. Before everything. I grabbed my phone and called Howard back. Nicholas knew her, I said. Elena. He knew her before she ever met Adrian. How do you know? Social media. They attended a fundraiser together 4 years ago. That doesn't prove. It proves he had access to her. It proves he could have orchestrated this. I was pacing now. What if the emails are fake? What if he hacked Adrian's account or paid someone to create fake evidence? That would be incredibly sophisticated. Nicholas runs a tech company. My voice rose. He has the resources. The motivation. Everything. Howard was quiet for a moment. Even if you're right, he said slowly, we need proof. Real proof. Or the judge will never believe it. Then we get proof. How? I thought about Adrian's video. His words. Be extraordinary. I'm going to talk to her, I said. To Elena? Mara, that's insane. She's a hostile witness. She's a person. And if Nicholas is manipulating her, maybe she doesn't know the whole truth. And if you're wrong? If she really was engaged to Adrian? Then my marriage was a lie. My life was a lie. Everything Adrian told me was. I'm not wrong, I said. I had to believe that. Because if I didn't, I had nothing left. I flew to Zurich Saturday morning. My bodyguards came with me. Howard tried to stop me. But I was done waiting for other people to tell my story. Elena lived in a penthouse overlooking Lake Zurich. Old money made new. The kind of place Adrian grew up in. The kind of place I'd never belong. I knocked on her door at 3 p.m. She answered in cashmere and suspicion. Mrs. Vale, she said coolly. European accent. Perfect pronunciation. I wasn't expecting visitors. I'm sure you weren't, I said. Can we talk? I have nothing to say to you. My lawyers advised. I'm not here as an enemy. I met her eyes. I'm here as someone who loved the same man you claim to have loved. And I think we've both been lied to. Something flickered across her face. 5 minutes, she said. She let me inside. The apartment was pristine. Sterile. Beautiful but empty. Like a magazine spread instead of a home. Nicholas Vale contacted you, I said. No preamble. No games. Didn't he? Elena's expression didn't change. But her silence was answer enough. He told you Adrian wronged you, I continued. That he chose me over you. That helping them contest the will was justice. Adrian did wrong me, she said quietly. He made promises he didn't keep. What promises? She walked to a window. Looked out at the lake. We met at a charity auction 4 years ago. He was charming. Brilliant. We dated for 6 months. He talked about marriage. About building a life together. Her voice was steady but sad. Then one day, he disappeared. Stopped answering calls. Stopped everything. I found out later he'd been in Africa. With you. My heart clenched. For years ago. When Adrian and I met. He never mentioned you, I said softly. Because he chose you. She turned. And now you get everything while I get nothing but memories of what could have been. I studied her face. The hurt was real. But something else was there too. How much is Nicholas paying you to testify? I asked. Her eyes flashed. Excuse me. I'm not judging you. I'm trying to understand. I stepped closer. Because Adrian was many things. But he wasn't a liar. And if he told me he loved me, if he married me, it meant something. Maybe it meant he was running from his real life, Elena said. From responsibilities. From people like me who expected him to be who he was supposed to be. Or maybe he was running to himself, I said. To someone who didn't care about his last name or his bank account. Elena laughed bitterly. How noble. The poor humanitarian who married a billionaire for love. Do you expect me to believe that? I expect you to believe that Nicholas Vale is using both of us, I said. He's using your hurt to destroy my marriage. And he's using my grief to reclaim a fortune he thinks he deserves. And what if I don't care? Elena's voice hardened. What if I testify anyway? What if I want to see you lose? I held her gaze. Then you'll have to live with helping a racist family erase a love story because it didn't fit their aesthetic, I said quietly. You'll have to live with knowing you chose revenge over truth. Her jaw tightened. Get out. Elena. Get out. I left. But as I stepped into the hallway, I heard something. Crying. Soft. Broken. Behind Elena's closed door. Maybe I'd gotten through. Maybe not. I wouldn't know until Monday. I flew back to New York Sunday night. Exhausted. Terrified. But somehow already. Howard met me at my house with coffee and bad news. Nicholas gave a press conference, he said. He's claiming you manipulated Adrian during his cancer treatment. That you isolated him from his family. That the marriage was elder abuse. Adrian was 42, I said flatly. Doesn't matter. The narrative is out there now. Social media is turning. Half the internet thinks you're a hero. The other half thinks you're a con artist. I took the coffee. Sipped it. What do you think? I asked. Howard looked at me for a long moment. I think Adrian was the luckiest man alive to have found you, he said. And I think his family knows it. That's why they're scared. Monday morning arrived too fast. The courtroom was packed. Media. Spectators. The entire Vale family in the front row. Nicholas in an expensive suit. Vivian in black. Looking every inch the grieving mother. I sat alone on my side. Just me, Howard, and the truth. The judge entered. A stern woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Chen. We're here to address the challenge to Adrian Vale's will, she began. Mr. Lockwood, you may call your first witness. Nicholas's lead attorney stood. Smug. Ready. Your Honor, we call Elena Bartok via video conference. The screen flickered to life. Elena appeared. Perfectly composed. She was sworn in. Ms. Bartok, the attorney began. Can you describe your relationship with Adrian Vale? She took a breath. And then she said the words that changed everything. I lied. The courtroom exploded. Order? Order in the court. Judge Chen's gavel cracked like thunder. But the chaos didn't stop. Reporters were shouting. Nicholas was on his feet. Vivian looked like she might faint. And Elena sat on the screen, tears streaming down her face, repeating the same 2 words. I lied. Judge Chen slammed the gavel again. Ms. Bartok, you are under oath. Are you recanting your previous statement? Yes, Your Honor. Elena's voice shook. Adrian and I did date. Briefly. For years ago. But there was never an engagement. Never any promises. And the emails. She swallowed hard. The emails were fabricated. By whom? The judge demanded. Elena's eyes found Nicholas across the video feed. By Nicholas Vale. He paid me $50,000 to testify. To create doubt about Mrs. Vale's marriage. The courtroom erupted again. Nicholas shot to his feet. That's a complete fabrication. Your Honor, this woman is clearly being coerced. Sit down, Mr. Vale, Judge Chen snapped. But Nicholas wasn't finished. She's lying to protect that woman who manipulated my brother. Mr. Vale, sit down now or I will hold you in contempt. He Saturday. But the rage radiating from him was palpable. Judge Chen turned back to the screen. Ms. Bartok, do you have proof of this alleged payment? Yes, Your Honor. Elena held up her phone. Wire transfer. Dated 2 weeks ago. From a shell corporation traced back to Nicholas Vale's personal accounts. I've already sent the documentation to Mrs. Vale's attorney. Howard stood immediately. Your Honor, we've received Ms. Bartok's evidence. We're prepared to submit it to the court. Judge Chen's expression was stone. This is highly irregular. Mr. Lockwood. Nicholas's attorney looked like he'd swallowed glass. Your Honor, we need time to review these allegations. I'm sure you do. Judge Chen's voice was ice. This hearing is adjourned pending investigation into witness tampering and fraud. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks. And Mr. Vale. She looked directly at Nicholas. I strongly suggest you retain separate counsel. You may need it. The gavel fell. I sat frozen in my seat, unable to process what just happened. We'd won. Elena had told the truth. The Vale's case was falling apart. Howard touched my shoulder. Mara. We should go. Before the media. Too late. Reporters swarmed as we exited the courtroom. Cameras flashing. Questions shouted from every direction. Mrs. Vale. How does it feel to be vindicated? Will you press charges against Nicholas Vale? What's your message to the Vale family? My bodyguards formed a barrier, but one reporter pushed through. Mrs. Vale. Is it true you're pregnant with Adrian's child? I froze. The question hung in the air like poison. What? No. I'm not. But it was too late. The damage was done. By the time I reached the car, the rumor was already trending. I made it home and collapsed on my couch. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. News outlets. Bloggers. People I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly wanting statements. I turned it off. Sat in silence. And finally let myself feel it. Relief. Anger. Grief. Everything I'd been holding back for weeks. Adrian should have been here for this. He should have seen Elena tell the truth. Should have seen his family's plan crumble. Instead, he was gone. And I was alone. The doorbell rang. I ignored it. It rang again. Insistent. Ms. Vale, it's Detective Morrison. NYPD. We need to speak with you. My blood went cold. I opened the door to find 2 detectives. One I recognized from the brick incident. One I didn't. Can we come in? Detective Morrison asked. What's this about? Nicholas Vale filed a criminal complaint this afternoon. He's claiming you and Elena Bartok conspired to commit perjury and extortion. I stared at him. You can't be serious. He has an affidavit from a digital forensics expert claiming the wire transfer evidence was fabricated. He's saying you paid Elena to recant her testimony. That's insane. She came forward on her own. We still need to investigate. The other detective stepped forward. We need to see your financial records. Bank statements. Any communication you've had with Ms. Bartok. I met her once. Yesterday. In Zurich. You flew to Switzerland to meet a hostile witness the day before her testimony. Morrison's eyebrows rose. You can see how that looks. I was trying to find the truth. Or coordinate a story. The other detective's voice was flat. Either way, we need those records. Howard appeared in the doorway behind them. Detectives. My client won't be answering any questions without counsel present. And any financial records will require a warrant. We can get a warrant, Morrison said. Then get one. Howard's voice was steel. Until then, this conversation is over. The detectives left, but the threat remained. Nicholas was countering. Fighting back. Trying to flip the narrative. And it was working. By that evening, the media had turned. Half the headline celebrated Elena's confession. The other half questioned it. Did Mara Vale buy her way to victory? Elena Bartok, truth-teller or paid liar? The Vale inheritance, who's really conning whom? I watched the news coverage with numb detachment. A legal analyst on CNN, the timing is suspicious. Mrs. Vale meets with the witness, and suddenly that witness changes her entire story? That raises questions. A commentator on Fox, this woman has everything to gain by discrediting the Vale family. $12 billion is a powerful motivator for fraud. Even the outlets that had supported me were hedging. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have taken the settlement when you had the chance. Then another. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. Then a photo. Me. Leaving Elena's apartment building in Zurich. Someone had been following me. I called Howard immediately. They're building a counter-narrative, he said. Nicholas is smart. He knew Elena's confession would hurt him, so he's preemptively attacking its credibility. By accusing me of the exact thing he did. Classic projection. And effective. Howard sighed. Mara, we need to talk about something. The tone of his voice made my stomach drop. What? The foundation. The Vale Technologies board called an emergency meeting. They're voting tomorrow on whether to freeze the transfer of assets pending the criminal investigation. Can they do that? Technically, yes. If there's reasonable suspicion of fraud, they can halt any major transactions until it's resolved. But the will? The will is being challenged. And now so are you. His voice was heavy. If they freeze the assets, the foundation can't move forward. Everything you planned, the schools, the clinics, the programs, all of it stops. I closed my eyes. This was Nicholas's real play. He couldn't win the will challenge. Not with Elena's testimony. So instead, he'd make sure I couldn't use the inheritance. Tie it up in legal battles and criminal investigations until I gave up. Or died trying. There's more, Howard said quietly. Of course there is. Vivian requested a meeting. Tomorrow morning. Private. Just you and her. Why? She wouldn't say. But Mara. He paused. I think she might be ready to negotiate. Negotiate what? I'm not giving up the foundation. Maybe not the foundation. But there might be a middle ground. Something that satisfies the family without destroying Adrian's legacy. I thought about the video. Adrian's voice. Don't let them take that from you. I'll meet with her, I said. But I'm not compromising. Just listen. That's all I'm asking. Vivian chose a neutral location. A private room at the Plaza Hotel. I arrived at 10 a.m. with my bodyguard stationed outside. She was already there. No lawyers. No Nicholas. Just her. She looked older than she had at the funeral. Tired. The Ice Queen facade had cracks. Thank you for coming, she said. I sat across from her. Said nothing. I owe you an apology, she continued. For the way I treated you. For the assumptions I made. For. Her voice broke. For not knowing my own son. I hadn't expected that. Adrian loved you, she said. I see that now. The way he protected you. The way he built a separate life just to keep you safe from us. She laughed bitterly. From me. Mrs. Vale. Vivian. Please. She looked at me. I spent my whole life building walls. Making sure the right people stayed in and the wrong people stayed out. And all I did was push away the one person who mattered most. Tears slid down her cheeks. He was my son. My baby. And he couldn't even tell me he was married because he knew I'd disapprove. What kind of mother does that make me? For the first time, I felt something other than anger toward her. I felt pity. The kind who can change, I said quietly. She wiped her eyes. Composed herself. I want to call off the legal battles. All of them. The will challenge. The criminal complaint. Everything. My heart leaped. Really? On one condition. And there it was. What condition? Nicholas keeps the company. I went still. Vale Technologies, she continued. It's been in our family for 3 generations. Adrian built it into what it is, yes, but it started with his grandfather. His father. It's our legacy. Adrian left it to me, I said carefully. Because he wanted you to do good with it. I understand that. But there are other ways. She leaned forward. Keep the liquid assets. The properties. The foundation funds. Take the 10 billion in cash and investments. But let Nicholas run the company. So he can strip it for parts and sell it to the highest bidder. So he can preserve what 3 generations built, she countered. And so you can focus on the humanitarian work without being dragged into corporate warfare. It was a good offer. A smart offer. It would end the fighting. Secure the foundation. Let me move forward. But it felt like betrayal. Adrian didn't trust Nicholas with the company, I said. That's why he left it to me. Adrian was angry at his family. Hurt. But he wasn't thinking clearly about business succession. Vivian's voice was firm now. You're a humanitarian, Mara. Not a tech executive. What are you going to do, run a billion-dollar company remotely while building schools in Africa? She wasn't wrong. But she wasn't right either. I need to think about it, I said. You have 24 hours. Vivian stood. After that, the offer expires. And Nicholas will come at you with everything he has. Money. Lawyers. Media. He'll destroy you piece by piece until there's nothing left. He can try. He'll succeed. Her voice was cold now. The Ice Queen returning. Because he has unlimited resources and you have a reputation built on one dead man's word. The cruelty of it took my breath away. I loved your son, I said quietly. I know. She moved toward the door. But love doesn't win wars. Money does. She left. I sat alone in the expensive room and felt everything crumbling. Maybe she was right. Maybe I couldn't win this. Maybe the smart move was to take the settlement, secure the foundation, and let the Vales keep their precious company. Maybe that's what Adrian would have wanted. Or maybe I was just tired. So tired of fighting alone. That night, I sat in Adrian's study. Our study. Surrounded by books we'd read together. Photos we'd taken. A life we'd built in secret. I pulled out the marriage certificate. Ran my fingers over our signatures. 7 years. 7 years of hiding. Of stolen moments. Of love lived in the margins. Was it worth it? Was any of this worth it? My phone buzzed. A text from Howard. The board voted. Assets are frozen pending investigation. I'm sorry, Mara. I stared at the message. Everything Adrian left me. Frozen. The foundation. Stopped. The future we'd planned. Gone. I walked to the window. Looked out at Brooklyn. At the neighborhood where we'd been happy. And I made a decision. Tomorrow, I'd call Vivian. Accept the settlement. Take the money and run. Let the Vales win. Because I couldn't do this anymore. I just couldn't. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in Adrian's study until dawn, the settlement offer burning a hole in my mind. At 6 a.m., I reached for my phone to call Vivian. Then I saw it. An email. Timestamped 5:47 a.m. From Adrian's account. My heart stopped. That was impossible. He was dead. His accounts were closed. I'd watched Howard shut everything down. My hands shook as I opened it. Mara. If you're reading this, you're about to give up. I know you. I know that look you get when you think you've lost. When you think the fight isn't worth it anymore. Don't. This email is on a timer. Set to send if you haven't accessed a specific file in my private server within 30 days of my death. Which means it's been a month. Which means you're struggling. I need you to do something for me. Go to the brownstone basement. Behind the water heater, there's a false panel. Inside is a safety deposit box key. Box for 47 at First National Bank on Flatbush. What's inside will change everything. Trust me one more time. I love you. A. I read it 3 times. Then I ran. The basement was cold and dusty. I hadn't been down here in months. The water heater sat in the corner, exactly where Adrian said. I felt along the wall behind it. My fingers found a seam. Pressed. A panel popped open. Inside was a key. Attached to a note in Adrian's handwriting. The truth is worth fighting for. First National Bank opened at 9 a.m. I was there at 8:45, pacing outside with my bodyguards, clutching the key like a lifeline. The manager recognized me immediately. The widow. The scandal. Mrs. Vale, he said nervously. How can I help you? Safety deposit box 447. He led me to the vault. Left me alone in a private room. I inserted the key. Opened the box. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten letter. I read the letter first. Mara. If you found this, they've come after you. Probably Nicholas. Maybe the whole family. And you're wondering if fighting is worth it. It is. Because what's on this drive isn't just evidence. It's insurance. 3 years ago, I discovered something. Nicholas was embezzling from Vale Technologies. Millions. Funneling it through shell corporations to offshore accounts. When I confronted him, he threatened to destroy anyone I loved if I exposed him. That's when I hid you. Not because I was ashamed. Because he'd promised to ruin you if I didn't stay silent. I've been gathering evidence ever since. Financial records. Email trails. Recorded conversations. Everything. I couldn't use it while I was alive without putting you in danger. But now I'm gone. And the truth can't hurt me anymore. Use it, my love. End this. Adrian. My hands trembled as I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. Folders. Dozens of them. Financial records showing Nicholas had stolen over $40 million. Email chains discussing how to hide the theft. Audio recordings of Nicholas threatening Adrian. Threatening me, specifically. My work. My reputation. My life. And one video file. Dated 6 months ago. I clicked it. Adrian appeared on screen. Gaunt already. Sick. But determined. This is Adrian Vale. Today is March 15th. I'm recording this as insurance and as evidence. He held up documents. My brother, Nicholas Vale, has been systematically embezzling from Vale Technologies for 3 years. The evidence is documented in the accompanying files. But more importantly, he paused. Looked directly into the camera. He threatened to kill my wife if I exposed him. He didn't know her name. Didn't know where she lived. But he knew she existed. And he promised that if I ever went public with what I knew, he'd find her and destroy her. His voice broke. I'm not letting him win. This recording, along with all evidence, is to be used if anything happens to me or to Mara Ellington Vale. My wife. The woman I love more than anything. The video ended. I sat in stunned silence. Nicholas had threatened to kill me. Adrian had known. And he'd built a weapon to protect me even after death. I called Howard. I found it, I said. I found everything. The press conference was scheduled for 2 p.m. Howard tried to convince me to go through proper legal channels. File with the DA. Build a case quietly. But I was done being quiet. I stood in front of 20 cameras with the flash drive in my hand and Adrian's voice in my heart. My name is Mara Ellington Vale, I began. 30 days ago, my husband died. And his family immediately began a campaign to erase me. To discredit our marriage. To steal the legacy he entrusted to me. I held up the drive. This contains evidence that Adrian's brother, Nicholas Vale, embezzled over $40 million from Vale Technologies. It also contains a video of Adrian explaining that Nicholas threatened to murder me if the theft was exposed. Gasps rippled through the crowd. For 3 years, my husband lived in fear. Not of death, but of what his brother would do to me. So he hid our marriage, protected me, and gathered evidence. I looked directly into the cameras. Nicholas Vale called me a con artist, a manipulator, someone who preyed on his brother's vulnerability. I inserted the drive into the laptop connected to the screen behind me. Let me show you who the real predator is. I played the video. Adrian's voice filled the room. His accusations. His evidence. His love. When it finished, silence. Then chaos. Reporters shouting questions. Cameras flashing. The story rewriting itself in real time. I walked off the platform without another word. Nicholas was arrested 6 hours later. Charged with embezzlement, fraud, and making terroristic threats. The family released a statement claiming they had no knowledge of his actions. Vivian didn't call. But the next morning, a letter arrived at my door. Handwritten. On Vale family stationery. Mara. You were right. About everything. I'm sorry. Vivian. Short. Simple. True. I folded it carefully and placed it in the box with Adrian's letters. Evidence that even ice queens could melt. The second court hearing was nothing like the first. This time, I walked in with my head high. Howard beside me. The truth on my side. The courtroom was packed again, but the energy had shifted. No more vultures. Just witnesses to justice. Nicholas wasn't there. He was in a federal holding facility awaiting trial. But Vivian came. She sat in the back row. Alone. Judge Chen entered, and we all stood. This court reconvenes to address the challenge to Adrian Vale's will, she began. However, in light of recent revelations and the arrest of Nicholas Vale, I understand the challenging party wishes to make a statement. The Vale family attorney stood. He looked tired. Defeated. Your Honor, the Vale family withdraws all challenges to the will. We acknowledge Mara Ellington Vale as Adrian Vale's lawful wife and rightful heir. The words I'd been fighting for. Finally. Judge Chen nodded. Mrs. Vale, do you accept this resolution? I stood. I do, Your Honor. But I'd like to make a statement first. Proceed. I turned to face the courtroom. To face Vivian. Adrian gave me his fortune not because I wanted it, but because he trusted me to use it the way he wished he'd been brave enough to use it himself. To help people. To build something meaningful. I pulled out a document. The Ellington Vale Foundation will move forward as planned. But I'm making one change to the original plan. Howard's head snapped toward me. We hadn't discussed this. I'm endowing a scholarship program specifically for students from families like the Vales. Wealthy families. Privileged families. Confused murmurs rippled through the room. But there's a requirement, I continued. Every recipient must spend 1 year doing humanitarian work in underserved communities before they can access their trust funds or family businesses. I looked directly at Vivian. Adrian believed that proximity changes people. That if you actually see how others live, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to not caring. My voice steadied. So I'm creating a program that forces the next generation of Vales, and families like them, to step outside their bubbles. To serve. To see. I folded the document. It's called the Adrian Vale Legacy Initiative. And it launches next month. Silence. Then Vivian stood. Everyone turned. She walked down the aisle slowly. Stopped in front of me. For a long moment, we just looked at each other. Two women who'd loved the same man in completely different ways. He would have loved that, she whispered. The scholarship. Forcing privileged kids to actually do something useful. A sad smile touched her lips. He always hated that we never had to. I know, I said softly. She reached out. Hesitated. Then took my hand. I'm sorry I didn't know you, she said. I'm sorry I didn't get to see what he saw. You can still see it, I said. If you want to. Her eyes filled with tears. I'd like that. Judge Chen cleared her throat. If there are no objections, I'm prepared to rule. No objections, Your Honor, the Vale attorney said. Then this court recognizes Mara Ellington Vale as the sole beneficiary of Adrian Vale's estate. The will stands as written. Case closed. The gavel fell. And just like that, it was over. Outside the courthouse, the media swarmed. But this time, the questions were different. Mrs. Vale. What's your message to other interracial couples facing family opposition? Will you forgive the Vale family? What happens to Nicholas? I stopped on the courthouse steps. Turned to face the cameras. My message is simple, I said. Love is worth fighting for. Even when it's hard. Even when it's secret. Even when the people who should support you don't. I thought of Adrian. Of our 7 hidden years. Adrian and I weren't perfect. Our relationship wasn't a fairy tale. But it was ours. And no amount of money or family pressure or racism could take that away. I looked into the camera. As for Nicholas, justice will run its course. As for the family, forgiveness is a process. But I believe people can change. I have to believe that. And the foundation. I smiled. A real smile. The first in weeks. The foundation starts work next month. We're building 3 schools in Kenya, 2 medical clinics in Ghana, and launching scholarship programs across 12 American cities. I pulled out a photo. One of Adrian and me in Nairobi, covered in mud, laughing. This is who Adrian was when nobody was watching. This is the man I married. And this is the legacy he wanted. I held the photo up to the cameras. I'm just making sure the world finally sees it. That evening, I returned to the brownstone. Our home. For the first time since Adrian died, it didn't feel empty. It felt full of him. Of us. Of everything we'd built in secret. I poured a glass of wine. His favorite. Sat on our couch. And I let myself grieve. Not the angry, desperate grief of the past month. But the soft, aching grief of someone who'd truly loved and been truly loved in return. We did it, baby, I whispered to the empty room. They know now. They finally know. My phone buzzed. A text from Howard. The board meeting is tomorrow. They want to officially reinstate you as controlling shareholder. You ready? I looked around our home. At the life we'd built. At the future Adrian had given me. Ready, I typed back. But before I could send it, another text came through. From Vivian. Would you have dinner with me? Just us. I want to hear about my son. The real him. The one you knew. I stared at the message. Then I typed. Yes. I'd like that. Because Adrian had been right about one thing. Proximity changes people. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late for this family to change too. 6 months later, I stood in the red dirt of Kajiado County, Kenya, watching the sun rise over the school we'd just finished building. The Adrian Vale Academy for Girls. 80 students enrolled. Local teachers hired. Solar panels on the roof. A library filled with books in Swahili and English. Everything Adrian and I had dreamed about during those late-night conversations in our Brooklyn kitchen. It's beautiful. I turned. Vivian stood behind me, slightly out of place in her linen pants and sun hat, but trying. Actually trying. She'd arrived 2 days ago. Her first time in Africa. Her first time seeing what her son's money was actually building. He would have loved this, she said softly, running her hand along the freshly painted wall. Would have wanted his name on it. He earned it, I said. We walked through the empty classrooms together. Tomorrow, they'd be filled with girls who'd otherwise have no access to education. Girls whose families couldn't afford school fees. Girls who deserved a chance. I've been thinking, Vivian said. About the scholarship program. The Legacy Initiative. And? I want to be the first participant. I stopped walking. What? Not as a student, obviously. She smiled, a real smile, not the practice society smile I'd seen in all those photos. But I want to spend time here. Learning. Serving. Understanding what Adrian saw. She looked at me. Understanding what you saw in each other. My throat tightened. Vivian. I know I can't undo the past. Can't give you back the wedding I should have attended or the 7 years I could have known you. Her voice cracked. But I can try to be the kind of person my son would have been proud to call mother. I took her hand. He was proud of you. Complicated, angry, hurt, but still proud. Liar, she said. But she was smiling through tears. Okay, yes. Complete lie. We both laughed. But he loved you. In his own frustrated way. I loved him too. She wiped her eyes. I just loved the idea of who I wanted him to be more than who he actually was. And that's something I have to live with. We stood there in the morning light, 2 women bound by one extraordinary man. Stay as long as you want, I said. The foundation can always use volunteers. Even difficult former ice queens. Especially difficult former ice queens. 3 months later, I was back in New York for the foundation's first annual gala. The Plaza Hotel. The same place Vivian had tried to negotiate my surrender. But tonight was different. Tonight, I walked in as the founder and CEO of a foundation that had already built 5 schools, 3 clinics, and funded scholarships for 200 students. Tonight, I wore the ring. The one Adrian had given me 7 years ago that I'd kept hidden. Our wedding band. Simple. Engraved with coordinates. The exact spot in Nairobi where he'd proposed. Howard met me at the entrance. Ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be. There are some people here you should meet. He led me through the crowd. Past owners. Past board members. Past journalists who'd once called me a con artist and now called me a visionary. And then I saw them. 20 students. Scholarship recipients. From 12 different cities. All wearing Adrian Vale Legacy Initiative badges. Mrs. Vale, Howard said. Meet your first class. They were everything. Black, white, Latinx, Asian. Rich families, poor families, everything in between. United by one thing, a year of service ahead of them. A young woman stepped forward. Confident. Poised. Mrs. Vale, I'm Jasmine McCoy. I just wanted to say, my family didn't understand why I'd delay college for humanitarian work. They thought it was beneath me. She smiled. But then I read about you and Mr. Vale. About how you met serving others. About how love and purpose aren't luxuries, they're necessities. And I knew I had to do this. My eyes burned with tears. Thank you, I whispered. Adrian would have loved meeting you. I wish I could have met him too. You did, I said. Every time you choose service over comfort. Every time you see someone others overlook. That's him. That's his legacy. Later that night, after the speeches and the donations and the celebration, I slipped away. Found a quiet balcony overlooking Central Park. The city glittered below. Thousands of lives. Thousands of stories. Somewhere down there, people were falling in love in secret. Fighting families who didn't understand. Building lives in the margins. Just like we had. I pulled out my phone. Opened the voice memo app. Something I'd been doing every night since Adrian died. Recording messages I'd never send. Hi, baby, I said softly. It's me. 6 months, 12 days, and... God, I've lost count of the hours. I watched the park. The gala was beautiful. Vivian came. Can you believe it? Your mother. In a room full of people celebrating everything she once tried to destroy. And she gave a speech. About you. About us. I smiled through tears. She told everyone that she'd been wrong. That she'd let fear and prejudice blind her to the greatest love story she'd ever witnessed. She called us a love story, Adrian. Your mother. A laugh escaped. I know. I couldn't believe it either. The city sparkled. The foundation is everything you hoped it would be. The schools are full. The clinics are saving lives. And the scholarship program? It's changing people. Not just the kids. Their families too. I touched the ring on my finger. You were right. Proximity does change people. Vivian spent 3 months in Kenya. She's going back next week. Your mother. The woman who once told me I didn't belong in your world is now serving in mine. I wiped my eyes. I wish you could see it. I wish you could meet the students. See the schools. Watch your legacy unfold. The night was quiet except for distant traffic. But maybe you do see it. Wherever you are. Maybe you're watching and smiling that smile you'd get when you knew you were right about something. I looked up at the stars. I miss you. Every single day. Every single moment. But I'm not drowning anymore. I'm swimming. Building. Living. I took a breath. You gave me everything, Adrian. Not the money. Not the foundation. But the courage to be exactly who I am. Unapologetically. Completely. I smiled. So I'm going to keep being her. For both of us. I ended the recording. Added it to the hundreds of others I'd saved. A diary of grief and growth and gratitude. Mara. I turned. Howard stood in the doorway. There's someone here to see you. I followed him back inside. Standing near the dessert table was a young man. Early 20s. Nervous. Wearing a suit that didn't quite fit. Mrs. Vale, he said. I'm Daniel Dawson. I was Adrian's intern. 3 years ago. My heart skipped. I remember. He mentioned you. Daniel's eyes widened. He did. He said you were brilliant. That you reminded him of himself before the family beat all the idealism out of him. Daniel laughed shakily. That sounds like him. What can I do for you, Daniel? He pulled out an envelope. Worn. Like he'd been carrying it for years. Mr. Vale gave me this. Right before he got sick. He said if anything happened to him, I should give it to his wife. He swallowed hard. But nobody knew he had a wife. So I kept it. Until I saw you on the news. And I knew. He handed me the envelope. My name on the front. Adrian's handwriting. He really loved you, Daniel said. I could tell. Even when he never mentioned your name. The way he'd smile at his phone. The way he'd leave early on Fridays. We all thought he had some secret life. He did, I whispered. A good one, I hope. The best one. Daniel left, and I stood there holding the final piece of Adrian. One more letter. One more message. I waited until I got home to open it. Back in our brownstone. Our sanctuary. I curled up on the couch with a blanket that still smelled faintly of him. And I read. My Mara. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And it means Daniel found you. Good kid, that one. I knew he'd come through. I don't know what the future holds as I write this. Don't know if you'll fight my family or flee them. Don't know if the foundation will survive or if my legacy will be reduced to stock prices and hostile takeovers. But I know you. And I know that whatever happened, you faced it with more courage than I ever had. I'm sorry I wasn't braver while I was alive. Sorry I hid you like a secret instead of celebrating you like the miracle you are. But I'm not sorry I loved you. Not sorry I chose you. Not sorry I built a life in the margins rather than living a lie in the spotlight. You taught me that love isn't about grand gestures or public declarations. It's about showing up. Being present. Choosing someone every single day. And I chose you. Every day for 7 years. I'd choose you for 7,000 more if I could. But since I can't, I'm asking you to do something for me. Choose yourself. Build the life you deserve. Love again if you find someone worthy, though I doubt you will. I set the bar pretty high. That was a joke. You're allowed to laugh. You're allowed to be happy. Create beautiful things. Change the world. Show everyone what happens when someone with a good heart gets resources. And sometimes, on quiet nights, remember the man who loved you so much he rewrote his entire life around you. Remember that you were worth hiding for. Worth fighting for. Worth everything. I love you, Mara Ellington Vale. I loved you in Kenya. I loved you in Brooklyn. I loved you in every moment between. And I'll love you in whatever comes next. Forever yours. Adrian. P.S. There's one more thing in the brownstone. In our bedroom. Behind the photo of Kilimanjaro. One last gift. I ran upstairs. Pulled the photo off the wall with shaking hands. Behind it was a safe I'd never known existed. The combination lock had a sticky note. Our first kiss. Month and day. I entered the numbers. The safe opened. Inside was a small velvet box. I opened it. A necklace. A simple silver pendant. Engraved with coordinates. But not Nairobi. Brooklyn. Our brownstone. The place we'd built our real life. And tucked beneath it, a tiny folded note. Home was never a place. It was you. I stood in our bedroom, holding the necklace, crying and laughing and grieving and healing all at once. 7 years of hiding. 6 months of fighting. And finally, peace. Not the peace of forgetting. But the peace of honoring. Of carrying Adrian forward not as a burden but as a blessing. I put on the necklace. Looked at myself in the mirror. A widow. An heiress. A humanitarian. But mostly, simply, a woman who'd been loved. Completely. Imperfectly. Genuinely. And that love had changed everything. 1 year later. The Adrian Vale Academy for Girls graduated its first class. 80 students. All passing their exams. 15 earning full university scholarships. Vivian and I stood together at the ceremony, watching young women cross the stage toward futures that hadn't existed a year ago. He'd be proud, Vivian said. He'd be insufferable, I corrected. Telling everyone I told you so. She laughed. You're right. He absolutely would. After the ceremony, one of the graduates approached us. Her name was Amora. Top of her class. Planning to study medicine. Mrs. Vale, she said shyly. I wanted to thank you. Before this school, I was going to be married off. My father couldn't afford to keep me in school. She held up her diploma. Now I'm going to be a doctor. Because someone I never met believed girls like me deserve a chance. I pulled her into a hug. You always deserved the chance, I whispered. We just removed the barriers. As she walked away, Vivian turned to me. That's it, isn't it? She said. That's what he wanted. Not monuments or buildings with his name. Just chances. Just chances, I agreed. We stood together watching the celebration. Two women who'd started as enemies. United by love for the same complicated, brilliant, hidden man. Thank you, Vivian said suddenly. For what? For loving my son when I made it impossible to do it publicly. For fighting for him after he was gone. For showing me who he really was. She took my hand. And for not giving up on me. Your family, I said simply. Messy, complicated, formerly racist family. But family. She laughed through tears. I'll take it. That night, I sat alone in the school's library. Surrounded by books. By possibility. By the future Adrian and I had dreamed into existence. I pulled out my phone. Opened the voice memo app one last time. Hi, baby, I said. It's me. 1 year, 3 months, and 12 days. I smiled. I'm in Kenya. At the school. Your school. And it's everything we imagined. Everything you hoped for. I looked around the library. Vivian's here. Your mother. Can you believe it? She's teaching a financial literacy class to the 11th graders. Your mother. Teaching poor Kenyan girls about money management. I laughed. She's actually good at it. Turns out when you remove the superiority complex, she's got a lot to offer. The library was quiet. I'm okay, Adrian. Really okay. Not pretending to be strong okay. But genuinely, finally okay. I touched the necklace. I still miss you. Every day. But it's not drowning anymore. It's just a gentle ache. A reminder that I was lucky enough to love someone worth missing. I looked out the window at the African night sky. The foundation is thriving. The scholarship program has 300 students now. We're building 2 more schools next year. And Nicholas? I paused. Nicholas got 15 years. Federal prison. White-collar crime finally caught up with white privilege. I smiled. You'd appreciate the irony. The stars were brilliant here. Away from city lights. I don't know what comes next for me. Maybe I'll stay here. Maybe I'll go back to Brooklyn. Maybe I'll find some new place entirely. I took a breath. But wherever I go, you're with me. In the work. In the love. In every choice to see people instead of overlooking them. I looked at the books surrounding me. You once told me I saved you. But baby, you saved me too. You showed me that love doesn't have to be loud to be real. That sometimes the most powerful revolutions happen in quiet rooms with 2 people choosing each other against all odds. My voice steadied. So thank you. For 7 years of secret joy. For trusting me with your legacy. For loving me enough to hide me and then brave enough to reveal me. I stood. I'm going to close this chapter now. Not forget you. Never forget you. But stop holding on so tight that I can't reach for what's next. I smiled through tears. Because you didn't give me everything so I could spend the rest of my life looking backward. I walked to the window. You gave me everything so I could change the world. I ended the recording. Deleted the app. And whispered to the African night. Goodbye, my love. Thank you for the dance. The end. Hey, beautiful souls. If you made it this far, if you felt every moment of Mara and Adrian's journey, if you cried and hoped and believed in love that survives even death, then do me a favor. Leave a comment. Tell me what this story meant to you. Tell me about a love worth fighting for in your own life. Tell me you believe that changing the world starts with choosing love over fear. And subscribe. Because stories like this, stories about real love, real courage, real change, they matter. And I want to keep telling them to people like you who still believe in the power of both. Mara chose to honor Adrian by living fully. What will you choose? Until next time, keep fighting for love. Keep building beauty. Keep being extraordinary.